I want to talk a little bit about, speaking of Pal World, I want to talk about something I dipped my toe into last night, which is competitive Pokemon. I don't know if I've spoken too much about my opinions on Pokemon on this podcast, or maybe if I did it, I think it was maybe a while ago. I'm not sure. So my problem with Pokemon for the longest time has been I actually I like everything about Pokemon. I think the world is really fun. I love the designs of the Pokemon themselves. I think all that is cool. I love the Pokemon anime growing up. There's like a picture of me, like I had the trading cards and stuff. I didn't know how to play the game, so we just looked at them. There's like a picture of me on my grandma's like table in the freaking living room of me at like 7 holding up the big Pokemon field guide, like one of those big books with the reflective like holographic cover. That shit was awesome. I've always had a soft spot for that aspect of Pokemon and the characters. I just think the games are really boring. I just Pokemon are the reason I thought I didn't like JRPGs for a while until I played Final Fantasy VI when I was in high school, and I was like, oh shit, wait, hang on, this is actually really sick. This is awesome. I'm gonna go check these out. And like my thing is, so like the idea of like all these cool monsters and then putting them on a team and battling them is neat. Like that has some appeal to me, which I think is one of the reasons I responded so well to when I played Shin Megami Tensei 4, because that is like a Pokemon game, but it is not like designed. It's not designed with like babies in mind. Like Pokemon games, the only two that I played Diamond, and I played Emerald, because I like the designs from Gen 3 the most. I like that art style the most. I played Emerald and Diamond, and I just found both of them really boring because they are designed in such a way where you can take your starter Pokemon and just only level that one and just spam like the one move throughout the entire game and do like complete most of it. And I just got really bored. I just thought that was boring. I am someone like, I will take the easy way out. I will take the easy way out. If you give me a dominant strategy, I will take it. And the Pokemon games are designed, like I turn into, even as an adult, I turn into that baby who just is going to mash on the A button through every battle, because you don't really give me any reason to do anything else other than, unless there's like a specific type that counters mine. And so like I need something. The games, like the RPG part of the RPG is really bland to me. Move that over there. So someone in a Discord yesterday suggested to me, hey, you should try out Pokemon Showdown, which, if you don't know, is a website where you can essentially play competitive Pokemon for free. There is like a team builder. There's like 1,100 different like tiers and things and different specific games and generations and all that. And you can just put together a team, customize their abilities, their all the little gameplay traits about them and their name and all that. It's literally just like, what if you were playing a Pokemon game, but you just skipped straight to, you have every Pokemon, and you can totally customize them to whatever you want. And I did have a little bit of exposure to competitive Pokemon, mostly through a YouTube channel called Big Yellow, who really started as like a fighting game YouTuber. They would take a look at like deep dives on fighting game characters, and specifically like kind of weird little characters or versions of characters. And I found their videos fun. And then they did a bunch of weird branching out to like, they do that, and then they do like competitive Pokemon and like Lego piece history. It's like a really random spread of topics that they do, but out of curiosity, because I just kind of like the way they talk about stuff, and it's nice background listening. I've just watched some of their Pokemon videos, and I'm like, okay, this is clearly, like, most of this is going over my head, because I don't know most of the terminology, but I've picked up on some of it. And I also just kind of I like poking my head into places where I just have no idea what anyone's talking about. I enjoy the feeling of, like, watching a video for a game I've never played, and people are just throwing around slang and terminology that, of course, everyone understands, except for me. And I find that fun. There's something about that's amusing to me. It's like, I feel like I'm exploring the uncharted world. I feel like Christopher Columbus, but without all the murder and stuff. I'm gonna come to the competitive Pokemon seed and fucking give them smallpox blankets. Gonna give them Dustox blankets. So I checked it out, and it is weird to get into. It is not immediately obvious what the fuck you can even do, or how to do it, or how it works. I think if anything, they could benefit from having a beginner's guide or something. Like, here's how to get started. Here's how the tiering system works. They just kind of assume. Yeah, I have to do a little. Those pages do exist, but I had to really go out of my way to look for them. The onboarding process, it kind of assumes you're already a little bit into it, which caused like a little bit of a headache for me. Like a literal headache in terms of like, okay, I gotta take in a lot of information and I don't know how much of it is actually useful. Anyway, so here's how it works. So basically you can go onto this website and there's a bunch of different, I think what they call them metagames, which are basically categories. You can think of them as sort of like weight classes, I suppose. And these are broken up by, well, there's a bunch of like random ones. So the problem is that there's a bunch of different Pokemon games and different Pokemon generations. They have different sets of Pokemon, and within those, there's like good ones and bad ones and all that. So they tend to split them up. I from what I can tell, there's like a bunch of niche little metagames, right, that are very specific, but mainly it's like goes by generation, and then within each generation, the most common played metagames are what they call overused. So they have all these tiers. They have all these tiers within various generations, and the generations, these tiers reflect. They're actually kind of like a ratio system from something like Marvel 2, like the fan system, right? It's a fan-developed tiering system to split up the available options for teams in such a way that basically like the have you ever played a game where there's like a bunch, there's like 100 characters or whatever, but there's like 10 good ones? Again, like Marvel 2 kind of suffers from that, where it's like there's 52 characters and there's like 12 that are godly. And and if you're playing for real for money and you have no restrictions, that's just kind of what people are going to run. This is like and that's what the ratio system was introduced to sort of fix, is to like force you to mix up your team, to diversify it. That's kind of what the tiering system is. So basically the tiers are based on usage. So like how commonly are these Pokemon used? And that is then broken up into, so that it can actually shift and change as the games are played more, and they can be reevaluated, and Pokemon can go in and out. Generally, the way that it works is that within the most of them have like an Uber tier, and Uber tier is kind of that's actually for like the top tiers. I find this kind of amusing. The top tiers are considered so strong, and they make the game so boring or whatever, or they have such a degenerative centralizing effect on the meta, that they're basically just in their own tier. And that just sort of like, so like the S plus tier, that's their own guys. And they're like A plus, maybe S tier Pokemon. Those are below them or whatever. Those are below them, and those are what are actually played in the most common formats, which is called overused. And then it kind of varies depending on which generation you're looking at. But most of them have like an overused, an underused, and like a zero use, I think, or never used or something like that. Some variation of that. And that basically correlates to how strong they are. Pokemon that are underused are generally considered kind of weak. The low tier, like never used kind of thing, are the bottom tiers. And so if you're playing overused, you can pick from anything from anyone in the overused tier and below. So you're actually not limited. You're not locked. I think that's cool, because it means that someone can actually come up with like, oh, what's a neat little team, a team idea that's using maybe some lower tier Pokemon or something like that. So you can't use anything above your tier, but you can use stuff below it and within it, of course. So all of that was like a lot of information to pack in. And I decided like, okay, why don't I just like, because there is like a bot that you can play against on one of the sites. There is a bot that has like teams for a couple different formats and metagames. So I was like, let me just put together, because I need a little bit of training. I need a little bit of training mode. So let me just put together a quick team, like a team that I think would be neat, of just Pokemon that I like. And then I'll just play against the bot, because I realize I don't really know that much about how Pokemon works. It's been a while since I played one of the games, and the actual like battle system and the pacing and the mechanics of like swapping them out and stuff was a little lost on me, and I was rusty on it. So I wanted to refresh my memory. So I put together what I call the big body team, because I think the big bodies are fun. So it was like, what was it, like Slacking? It was like the big sloth Pokemon. Snorlax, who apparently is really good. This is specifically for Gen 3, which they call it advanced or ADV or advanced, because it just encompasses all of the Game Boy Advanced Pokemons. Snorlax. What else did I have? Metagross, who I've always thought was a really cool looking Pokemon. I had... What the hell did I have? I had Salamence and Gyarados, and I think I'm forgetting one. Oh, and I had Donphan, the elephant one, who I've always loved. I've always loved the big elephant. I love the big boys. So I put all those on a team, and then I looked up, because they have a whole wiki and a whole site that is like, you can click on the specific Pokemon from that generation, and they will literally tell you like, here is the build, and here are various different builds for this Pokemon and strategies and team synergies and stuff. And I'm like, great. And that kind of helped me understand a little bit more of what I was doing. So I played some bot matches, and I'm not gonna lie, kind of fun, kind of enjoyable. I actually started to understand these are the things that you never get from just playing the games, playing just the single player games. But there's some interesting little like metagaming and like mind gaming to Pokemon battles. When I say that they never do that, is because most, from what I understand, like most of the trainers and the NPC battles that you fight in Pokemon don't have like great teams, and they never switch Pokemon out. They never do that. They've never programmed that in for some reason. Here, like swapping Pokemon in and out seems like it's actually a really important mechanic, because you can straight up just like completely fuck someone up if they queue up a move and then you swap out a Pokemon for one of your Pokemon for one that is just immune to it or highly resistant to that one. And then it's like, what's going on? There's like a ton of different moves. A lot of them are useless. What I find funny is Pokemon is clearly not a game that is balanced around competitive play. So that means that there has to be, they literally, like when you're selecting your moves for your Pokemon, there's like a whole list and you just click on the ones you want. But a big part of the list is, well, for a lot of them is like typically useless moves. Just like, don't use these. Just do not use these moves. And I was just, I don't know, reading up on like the strategy and like team compositions. And I was like, oh shit, actually, there's something interesting here. There's something interesting, especially like, because the fact that you don't know what your opponent is playing or the specific type of build of a Pokemon that they're playing. Like maybe they're picking a build. So like the Metagross, I thought it's a fun idea to have a Metagross with like Explode, because it basically one hit KOs like anything it's gonna go up against, at the cost of also suiciding your Metagross. So that's like a fun little thing to have in my pocket. But there's like whole strategies around like if someone puts sets like the front of their team as like this one as a particular Pokemon, you can use Metagross to just like bomb through them and like take them out early in the game. Thankfully, because of my team, I looked it up and some of the ones I picked weren't like top tier, like they weren't great in Overused. But I did pick Snorlax, and Snorlax is fucking, wow, he seems like really strong, and apparently is really strong. There's a build for him that uses a move called Curse, and Curse essentially, it's just a buff that increases his attack and defense by something like, 0.5 or something? Or some amount, like it just increases, it gives him a multiplier at the cost of his speed. So you're basically always going to be going second in the turn. But he gets really fucking tanky. He gets really tanky and does a decent amount of damage. So I figured out this little team where Slacking, so I got my Slacking, my big sloth guy. He can do some pretty decent damage, but he has a unique trait where he basically falls asleep between every round, or between every turn. So you can do like a big attack with him, but then he falls asleep and you have to swap him out for someone else. So it's like a hit and run style of play. So I'll swap him out for my Donphan, my big elephant guy. And then I'll have Donphan do some kind of like decently big attack and is able to like maybe tank something back. And then I just kind of like whittle back and forth between them and swapping them out. And then for like really from what I could tell were like the strong Pokemon on the enemy's team, I would get my Metagross and I'd blow them up, and then the backbone of my team was Snorlax, and then I would pull Snorlax out, and I would just like battle of attrition them, war of attrition them to death, and then I really don't know what to do with Salamence, and Gyarados, that was the last one I made because I couldn't find that many other big bodies. I considered maybe swapping Gyarados for like some tiny little Pokemon that might have like, they could be like the mascot, that could be like the joke. The protect the baby team. But yeah, like I'm sure like none of this is very advanced, and I'm probably wrong on a bunch of stuff and my tactics are terrible, but just starting to think about that was fun. And what was neat about it was that cutting out all the bullshit and actually having some kind of like real strategy to play against forced me, again, like, because I need to be forced me to engage with Pokemon's battle system in a way that the main games never had. And I wish there was just like a spin-off that was like this, that was more focused on battling or something like that, you know? One of the reasons I think I had such a positive impression of Pal World was that it was like a Pokemon spin-off that I wish, it's the kind of spin-off I wished we'd been getting. It's just, off-brand Pokemon. And I was like, man, this is so cool. This is like an idea that I didn't, like, it's not like I've had this idea, but it's the kind of idea that I've been thinking about, like, oh, it would be cool if there were a game where you had cool interactions with your Pokemon and you could do cool stuff with them, and there are more mechanics beyond really bland battling. Like just say like the words Pokemon Base Builder, and already you're like, ooh, that could be cool. What could you? Like, there's all these interesting ways to use that world that the mainline games, I feel like, just don't in any real gameplay sense. It's all just, if anything, just background dressing. I always thought it was so cool that like Pokemon just do daily jobs. Like there'll be a Machamp doing construction or something. Yeah, so Pokemon Showdown, competitive Pokemon. Is it fun? Yeah. Yeah, I got into the flow. I kind of understand the way the main mechanics work a little better now. I have a little bit of taste of some of the common strategies. But it is certainly a lot to get into, and I sort of wish that there was better explainer content. Maybe I'm like a person who I'll look up like a text guide before I'll look up a video guide in a lot of cases. This is the type of thing I think like a comprehensive text guide to like how to get started in it might be helpful.